Just go right ahead, because it's here and it's now. Just move every bone. Cosmic powwow, cosmic powwow, cosmic powwow.
Hello everybody, welcome to Toward a Quality of Life. And with me today is a musician drummer who's in several bands in the Boston area. Her name is Jillian DeLear, and she's here to talk with us about a recent extraordinary trip that she took to Havana, Cuba, and went right into the very heart of Cuba, where people mostly haven't been this far, and got to see it up close and personal. So we're eager to hear what she has to say, and I want to point out that on this screen that is next to us, there are pictures that are going to be changing slowly as we go through this show to give you an idea of the things that she saw when she was in Fidel and Raul Castro's infamous and famous Cuba. So what do you think when you went to Cuba? What was your first impression, Jillian?
Well, it was extremely hot. So
How hot? Now, we had a very hot summer, like
Right.
very humid. How was it compared to that?
Well, extremely humid, and the heat was always 92, 93 degrees plus, and it just never gave up. There was no air conditioning to speak of, and except in the taxis, which was nice, but that was, you know, so you're very warm. You're very warm all the time, and that just kind of sets the stage for the lifestyle that they live there.
Meaning what? How does it set the stage that it's hot? I take it that the heat is kind of oppressive, really, to you, maybe
to
not
me,
to them.
Yeah, to them, they're used to it.
Yeah.
They're used to it, and but it was definitely a presence in my mind all the time, the heat, and that's just because I don't like it hot. But so that was like kind of like the first impression. It's going to be hot, and that everything was different, and anything that I knew as being kind of status quo is not the same in Cuba.
Your reality shifted like you were in quicksand.
Yeah, it was very different, and you could sense that. You could sense that.
And let me just say, too, before that, as these pictures change, and I don't know if they've changed yet, they seem to be on pause, but you're going to see, like, things to watch out for, because we're not going to point them out to you. You're going to see that there were banners and writings all over Havana reminding the people to perform for the revolution, that they have to do the revolution. And you're going to see that some of the buildings, all the buildings pretty much date from old Cuba. Nothing's really been built since then, and you're going to see some of them are in disrepair, and Jillian will tell you too how the sidewalks were in disrepair, kind of like that. And then you're going to see, you know, that people don't have much, and that they're asking for things when you go there. So and how the old cars that you hear about are pretty much the cars that are available in Cuba to not many people, you know, still reworked from the 50s. So some of the things to watch out for. And what we're seeing on the screen right now is a picture of the hotel room that Jillian stayed in, which was for Cuba a 2-star hotel. And tell us what happened formally when people got married in Cuba, communist Cuba, about hotel rooms.
Well, this was actually one of the hotels that that when you got married, the government would give you a set of sheets, and also some, I guess, some tableware like spoons and knives and forks. As a congratulation, and I think you got 2 nights at that hotel, and that was the government's gift for getting married.
All right, now tell us about the most fascinating thing I think I heard from you, which is about the food and the rationing situation. How did you find people to be living well? Did you find people to be happy? Did you find them to be content and just working along?
Well, one of the things that was pretty apparent was the fact that people are hungry.
How do you know they were hungry?
They're always asking for food. They're always asking for any time that we stop to get something to drink or get something to eat. There was always we were surrounded by people who wanted food, or for them to give them money or whatever we had on ourselves. We were asked for. And that was something that happened all the time.
I remember you told me you were sitting outside eating, and what happened there one day with the kids? You said they were coming and asking you for food?
Right, yeah. There were several beggars, for lack of a better word, that would come up, and the wait staff would ask them to leave the little area that we were in, and basically they would just stand right on the outside of that area and continue to just ask for food. I mean, that was the case all the time.
What is it? Do they get rationed food? Do they run out of food? What's the story? What's the problem with food?
One of our translators told us that the situation in Cuba is that every adult, which I think is at 17 or 18, receives $11 from the government for payment of whatever job. It doesn't matter if you're a doctor, if you're a lawyer, a school teacher, a street sweeper. You get $11 a month, and you get a little ration card that will provide for some rice, maybe a chicken, maybe some other staples. And she went on to describe the fact that this ration card runs out after 20 days. No matter how far they can stretch it out, it runs out after 20 days. And so they have to figure out how to get along. 10 days every month. And that's...
How do they? Did you have any clue of what they do to get by?
I think that they all have like little things that they do on the side, some bartering. They're all doing something to try to just earn a few extra pesos, Cuban pesos, to get by. They didn't suggest that there was an awful lot of opportunity because everybody is so poor.
Everybody is poor?
Everybody is poor. Everybody is poor. One of the most renowned professors of Cuban music, who was hired by the government to study Cuban music, and he has been doing it for about 20 years, he says in his home he doesn't have a table with matching chairs. He doesn't have matching chairs. It's like you're lucky to have chairs with your table. If you have a table. If you have a table.
In other words, inside wherever people live.
Yeah, and he can speak German. He can speak Spanish. He can speak English. He has toured the world talking about Cuban music. I mean, he's an authority. He's a world authority, and he. Doesn't have his, it's just everything is different. It's just different there. It's a different sense of normal. And so in that sense, people are not necessarily down and out and depressed. They just get on with life the way they understand how to get on with life. There were several times we were in a taxi and we'd be driving by and I would see the water truck where people were standing up in line, 2 blocks long for them waiting to get their water because so many places don't have running water, don't have electricity.
Don't have electricity?
Don't have electricity, don't have running water. And that's just...
the way it is.
It's just the way... They don't even think twice about it, though. So, for somebody like me who goes down there and you're a
trillionaire by comparison.
Oh, yeah, there's not even
Yeah, no.
Yeah, you can't. It's hard to compare because it's just off the scale, and it doesn't mean that they have a less significant life because they don't have material things. What is disturbing to me is that there doesn't seem to be allowed the opportunity for them to they can't leave the country. They're kind of prisoners there. There are people that do get out, but it's extremely lots and lots of paperwork to be able to get out of the country, unless you're connected.
Right. You know, actually, talking to you prior to this show about it, after several conversations, the thought I had was these people are in prison. You know, that's the general idea I got after, you know, a lot of conversations with you.
Yeah.
Essentially. I mean, you can't speak, right? You can't say this government isn't for me.
Right. Yeah, there's on every block, one of the slides that goes by has a doorway, and it has a little plaque on it that says CDR on it, which is Comité de Revolución, or de Defensa de Revolución, and it's a little watchdog. Every block has this little where they watch for counter-revolutionary activity, and it's been in place since 1960, and so they're supposed to report to their higher-ups if something's going on, whether it's their own people or it's people that are not from Cuba that are doing something that doesn't quite fit what the revolution's agenda is. So.
Well, you said too that there are places the people don't mingle. Like you're a kind of person, I've seen you, to go and say hi to everybody. Like when I've seen you in social settings, you're like definitely a chit chatter.
Right.
You kind of probably had that motif when you went down there. You know, why not?
Well, for example, we went to a club to see a band, the group of us, and when we left, there's police that are out on the street, and the police are there to keep from the Cubans talking to us Americans. It's not to control us, it's just to keep the Cubans away from the Americans, is how that's set up. And they can get into trouble for socializing with us. And that's too bad.
Didn't you say there were houses that keep a watch on whether...
Yeah, that's what the little plaque, when you see a plaque on a door, and it's almost every block, there's a doorway, somebody's home is designated as being part of this CDR organization where they are the little watchdog to keep the revolution intact.
And you said too that there are all races in Cuba living there.
Oh yeah,
People who live there are all races, right?
I mean, it's a lot of different color there. Probably white is not as much, but there's a lot of Germans that go to Cuba.
But they're not living there.
But there are descendants.
Descendants of Germans
so
in Cuba.
Yeah, so you'll have even a white part of the community there, but it's all color. I mean, black, brown, and everything mixed between. In the 1800s, there were a lot of Chinese laborers that came over, so you have like a little Asian influence as well, and so it's a melting pot. It's really a mishmash of all different races.
I think you told me something too, that after a while in trying to mingle with people, or not trying to, but just being that way, you kind of stopped doing that because...
Well, I was only there for 2 weeks, and at the end of the 2 weeks, it became pretty clear that the conversation was always, when I talked to a Cuban, was always, oh, where are you from? Give me money. That was the conversation. And after a while, at the end of the 2 weeks, I was going, well, I don't know how many more times I want to have that conversation. So, I would have to stay a lot longer and actually start to establish some friends and a network of people that wasn't part of the conversation.
Yeah. So it wasn't like you could say, "Hey, let's jam," you know?
Right.
You couldn't like just get on a street corner even though the people were around there. No way, huh?
Yeah, no, it was, I mean, the first order of business is for them to get some money.
Yeah.
Or food.
Because they need it.
They need it, absolutely.
Uh-huh. And did the kids try to get your purse too? Did you tell me too?
Yeah, they were grabbing at my purse at one point, and I have a little watch that's attached to it, and they're grabbing at the watch. I mean, it's just they need stuff. They can use it.
There's a saying that desperate people do desperate things. But you didn't sense desperation.
I didn't sense desperation. I just sensed that they saw tourism and people, and the big thing is that they wouldn't look at you, but they would look at your shoes. That was a very interesting thing. If they saw your shoes, basically, tourists have amazing shoes in comparison to Cubans, because Cubans often are either barefoot or have the thinnest of the little rubbery little sandals. Changlas, I think is what they call it in Cuba. And so if you're wearing shoes, you're a target, basically. So, and I had sneakers. So that was
a big point of attention for them. Focus.
They're looking at shoes.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, and also I think you were telling me too that you were surprised that the buildings are pretty much, and you'll probably see from these photos as they're going by, and right now, for example, you can see some of that propaganda that is on a lot of the buildings, the steps, the doorways.
Socialism or muerte.
Or death.
Socialism or death.
Socialism or
and
death.
That had,
and Che Guevara's a very big hero there too,
right?
Right. But Che Guevara, I have to bring up here, if anybody reads about it, no matter what side you're on, was the most wanton killer. He started out presumably very kind of idealistic and doing sort of the right kind of war thing, but he ended up being a massive killer. And like I told Jillian, I read that at the end of his life, after killing people like nonsensically, he'd just shoot you for looking at you, he whimpered for his own life at the end of his life. And I know he's an icon of people, Che Guevara, but he whimpered and pleaded for his own life after just massacring people wherever he went, just for no reason. He got crazy with killing. But you said, too, that, so the buildings, they're still like they were from pre-communist Cuba.
Yeah,
pretty much not anything new there.
Yeah, I mean, people started... people from Spain started bringing their European culture over there in the 1500s. So there's a lot of buildings that are from the 1600s, 1700s, 1800s that are still there. And you'll see there's all the architecture is fused as far as colonial and Victorian and Spanish and a little bit of Arabic. And you can, I think there's one shot that goes by and you can actually see, like, it's all in one building, the different kinds of architecture that are going on. But they don't have the means to really keep the buildings up. So once it starts to collapse and that's it. They don't have the money to repair the buildings. So they're just slowly disintegrating. And
what about the sidewalks? You said about nighttime.
Yeah, the sidewalks are always at completely different heights and different levels, and there's sometimes holes that go into some sewer area or something. Or and our group leader, not this trip but a previous trip. Because there aren't street lights, he actually stepped and didn't see, because it's very dark.
No electricity. Very limited.
Yeah, and he broke his ankle or broke his foot. He ended up going to the hospital there, and so it's pretty dangerous to walk around at night just because you can't really see what's in front of you. It It'd probably be good to have a little flashlight.
And I think I wouldn't be presuming too much, but it's probably dangerous that you started to feel too not to veer out very much easily, to watch what you were doing after you saw that people watch you and people want things. Did you feel a little bit that you shouldn't just go wherever you want?
I definitely felt a little bit vulnerable, partly because I don't speak Spanish fluently, and am a woman and an American, and I made sure that when I walked around that I was always at least with one other person. That was for my own comfort. I'm not saying that anything would have happened, but I felt a little bit better if there was just somebody else that I was walking around with.
Okay, and now we're going to wrap. Maybe you've seen, because we're out of time, but you've seen the old cars too, and so forth. Maybe you saw the picture of how it's a jungle outside of Havana, very, very, very thick jungle, which is why we have the oppressive heat. But I'm going to leave you with this conundrum of a question which maybe you can't answer. Okay, so the people seem to want things.
Right.
Okay? Did they want things because it's in the human psyche to move ahead as much as you can? If you have two hands to try to build something, if you have some clay to take some water and make something out of it, is that why they wanted it? Or is it, and don't say combination, or is it because they saw that you had the sneakers that they didn't have or whatever? Is that why they wanted it? Or what do you think about, the human psyche, the human propensity, and people wanting things? How does that work? Is that just a way?
Wow, well, it's such a
deep question.
It's a deep question, and it only seems to make sense to me that if somebody doesn't have shoes, and somebody who has shoes, that the person without shoes is going to go, hey, that looks like that might be more comfortable to walk around with shoes than without shoes. And I don't know if that's...
And certainly it doesn't take Einstein to realize, too, that if there are holes in the street, to fill them, especially when it's dark, so that you wouldn't trip and fall in a hole. So, in a way, maybe people's motivations are somehow, suppressed, if you will. Because, any ordinary human being would look around and do something with their hands, with their eyes, with their brains.
But that's another big,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So, thank you for passing the buck on that one. But therein lies the conundrum: communism or capitalism. And boy, that's a difficult one. Anyway, we've given you one bird's eye view deep in the heart of Havana. Merci beaucoup. Adios. I should say it in Spanish. And see you again next time. Thank you.
It's fun and it's warm, it's a cosmic powwow. It's fun and it's warm, it's a cosmic powwow.
Power to the rulers. We know what's best for you, plebiscite.